3 years after college, DJ completed his plan for walking the PGA Tour. Thereafter, he gave his plan to his friend, Mr. Nance of CBS Sports. And as they say, the rest is history. Once Nance submitted the plan to PGA Tour Commissioner, DJ was on his way to walking every PGA 2007-2008 tournament. DJ Gregory's story is compelling beyond words, and so is his accomplishments. Outside of Gregory's golfing career, he holds a Bachelor of Arts degree and a Master's in Sports Management from Springfield College in Massachusetts. DJ is also an entrepreneur who created a web-based eBay business. He's also the official blogger for the PGA. Additionally, throughout time, DJ has served as one of the ambassadors for United Cerebral Palsy. DJ has been featured on national media shows including ABC's World News Tonight, as well as ESPN's E60. DJ is also a testament for all of us to aspire to reach our full potential. And his accomplishment is a great inspiration to many of us in the larger community, as well as in the disability community. DJ's life is truly inspirational, and the journey he undertook, which is documented in his book, is inspiring to all. A quote his friend Jim Nance once said, "DJ walked 1,000 miles to reach his goal. Sometimes he fell, but he always picked himself up and proudly made it to the finish line." We all can learn something from DJ, his perseverance, his dedication, and his indomitable spirit. I am proud to know him. And once you read his story, I'm confident that you will be proud to know him too. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you DJ Gregory, author of Walking with Friends, an inspirational year on the PGA Tour.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here tonight. I actually live in this state just a few hours away, but I'm not going to make it home during this trip. In 2008, I walked every event on the PGA Tour. It was 44 events in 45 weeks. Traveled over 80,000 miles. Walked 3,256 holes. Over 1,000 miles, even though it says 988 in the book. I can promise you it's over 1,000 miles. I accomplished a personal challenge that I set for myself in being able to walk every hole of every event last year, but at the same time, I lived a lifelong dream of being able to attend every event on the PGA Tour and get to know the players on a more personal level other than their scorecards and their stats. I am 31 years old, and when I was born 10 weeks premature, and when I was born, my lungs were not fully developed, so I was in an incubator for the first month of my life. And sometime during that month, the nurses tried to force some oxygen into my brain, and at one time it burst one of the capillaries in my brain that control my leg muscles. When I was 2 years old, doctors told my parents that I would never be able to walk, and I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. My parents did not take that for an answer, so they consulted different doctors, and it was decided that the only way that I would ever have a chance to possibly walk on my own was to have surgery to cut my abductor muscles. My abductor muscles are muscles in your legs that control your balance. Since they cut mine, I have no balance. Therefore, that's why I walk with a cane. For the first few months of my life, I army crawled around the house, which is one arm over another. That's why I like to say my upper body is stronger than my lower body. But my lower body is catching up rather quickly, I seem to think. And then I progressed to walking with a walker with 4 wheels, and then a walker with 2 wheels and 2 crutch tips, walker with 4 crutch tips and 2 canes, and now down to 1 cane. So in that respect, I think I've made a little bit of progress. I've played golf since I was 9 years old. I play one-handed. Some days are better than others. I play from the forward tees. My handicap is 36. I love the game. I have a self-taught golf swing. I love sports altogether, but golf is my favorite sport. And I think one of the reasons why it is my favorite sport is because it's a sport that I can play competitively if I so choose. Like, I can play basketball, baseball, whatever, but golf is the only one that I can play in a competitive level. Not that I do it, but I can if I want. So I think that's why I probably like it the most. I went to my first PGA Tour event when I was 12 years old, the Wyndham Championship in Greensboro, North Carolina, which was in 1990. And I met Ken Venturi at CBS Sports. And he came over and gave me an autograph. And then about 5 minutes later, he came over and said, "Would you like to get in my golf cart?" Well, I'd watched golf television coverage on TV, so I knew who Mr. Venturi was, and so I got in his cart. He took me all down the driving range to get autographs, and then after that was over, he went to my dad and said, "What are you guys doing now?" And he said, "Well, my dad told him, well, we're just going to go to the first hole and watch some of the players tee off." And so he took us over to the first hole. He made sure that he put me in the tent where the players come check in, and told the volunteers in the tent to make sure to give me an autograph as all the players came by. And then he asked my dad what we were doing that afternoon. And he said, would you be interested in coming to the 18th tower to watch the live CBS Sports broadcast? And my dad said, if I have to carry DJ on my shoulders, we'll be up at the tower. And that's how that started. And Ken Venturi introduced me to Jim Nance. I've known Jim for 19 years. And we were just kind of joking about it earlier this year. Jim celebrated his 50th birthday in San Antonio. And I was fortunate enough to be invited to the party. And we were talking that, I've known Jim for 19 years. We both couldn't believe that it's been that long. But about 4 years ago is when I started thinking about this project. Would it be possible? How much it would cost? What would have to go into it? In 2007, I did a test run on my own, where I went to the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill, and I followed Aaron Baddeley for 4 days. And I've known Aaron for 6 years. He's a good friend of mine, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to be a part of that." And so I went down to the tournament. Aaron was gracious enough to answer some questions for me, and from that tournament, I put a proposal together. And then about a month later, I saw Jim Nance at CBS Sports, and he read my proposal. He said, "Have you ever considered getting the PGA Tour involved?" And I was like, "No, not really." He said, "Well, I think you should write a letter to the commissioner." And I said, "Okay, Jim. Being the commissioner of the PGA Tour, I'm sure he gets his mail screened. So how's he going to get what I send him?" And he said, "Because you're going to put a package together and you're going to send it to me, and I'm going to hand deliver it to the PGA Tour." And that's exactly what happened. And a month later, PGA Tour called me, wanted to set up a meeting. So we did, and went down to Jacksonville and met with the tour. The tour jumped on board immediately. And it was decided after that meeting that I would do 2 test tournaments for the PGA Tour at the end of 2007. So I did the Barclays tournament and the Deutsche Bank Championship. There were back-to-back tournaments, and choosing back-to-back weeks was on purpose, because I wanted to make sure that I had enough stamina to walk the golf course 2 weeks in a row. And they set it up just like they did last year. They assigned a different player for me to follow. And after the 2 test tournaments were done, it was decided that I would do every event in 2008. So I walked with a different player each week, 44 players in 45 weeks. Every player I walked with told me whatever I need, just let them know when it's done. it was just an amazing experience. I have some of the best friends from last year, and one of my best friends on tour is a player that I didn't even follow last year for an entire week. He's just a player that played in the same group that of the player that I was following at the Canadian Open last year, and we just became really good friends. And he's just been a great source of support and encouragement. And that's Parker McLaughlin. And so even though I didn't follow him last year officially, I followed him many times this year. So hopefully I can bring him good luck this week in Milwaukee, but we'll see. It's just a great experience, and I have some, like I said, some of the best friends from last year, and I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. And they're lifelong friends. They're not just they weren't just friends from last year. They're lifelong friends, and I can call any one of them right now, and they would do anything for me. And obviously, I'm closer to some players than others, but having said that, every player was great, and I get asked a lot, what's one thing that I would take away most from last year, and it's the friendships that I have with the players and their families. I will definitely cherish those friendships that I have and know that they're lifelong friends. I'm going to tell you two quick stories of many. But as was stated, I did a weekly blog on PGAtour.com where I chronicled my experience at each tournament with each player for the week. And on my blog, I also kept track of some stats, such as the number of holes walked, number of miles traveled, number of miles walked, a number of waters consumed, sodas consumed, sports drinks. But the one stat that I enjoyed the most keeping track of is my number of falls. And I get asked a lot about that. Why did I keep track of my number of falls? And simply the reason why is because that's just another way for me to show my personality. I like to have a good time. I like to laugh. I like to make fun of myself. So being able to keep track of my number of falls it was just another way for me to show my personality. And it was kind of funny because if you see my blog, it's still up on PGAtour.com. I believe I consumed something like 256 bottles of water and 300 and something bottles of soda. Those of you here from the CDC probably won't like this too much, but it was my goal by the end of the year to consume more sodas and sports drinks than water. So I was once again proud of that. I've been known to have the worst diet on the PGA Tour. That was just kind of my secret little goal on myself. But my goal last year was to average less than one fall per week, which would be less than 44 falls. And I came in at 29, so I was 15 under my goal. So I was proud of that. Yeah, y'all can keep laughing. But I have some, great stories from players. And the first week of the year, I followed Boo Weekley at the Mercedes Championship, which, by the way, the plantation course at Kapalua is the most difficult course on the PGA Tour to walk. There is not an even piece of land on that property. It's side hill, downhill, uphill. You name it, it was like walking a roller coaster. In fact, the players got shuttled on a few holes from tee to green and even in one case, tee to fairway. And luckily when the players got shuttled in carts, they allowed me to get on the shuttle as well, because between the fifth hole, the fifth green and sixth tee box, it was 0.6 of a mile. I would be probably 2 or 3 holes behind if I had to walk that myself. But as I said, I walked with Boo Weekley first week of the year, and I did a pre-tour interview with every player, and the interviews would be about 25 to 35 questions, and the questions could be about anything, golf-related, life, superstitions. It was anything. And at the end of every interview I did with all the players, I told them I wanted to talk to them after each round just to find out how their day went and kind of how they're feeling. Well, the first day, first round of the first term of the year, Boo Weekley shot 80. Now, for those of you that know about golf, a score of 80 for a professional golfer, not very good. So my dad was playing, so I looked at my dad, and my dad looked at me and said, well, what do I do now? Because you don't want to bother a player if they're not playing very well. And he said, I have no idea. So I just went outside the clubhouse and waited by the practice putting green, and about 5 minutes later, Boo came out, and he said, I told you I was going to be here. Golf's just a game. It's not a big deal. And that's just one example of how genuine and how giving the players are. If they say they're going to do something, they're going to be there no matter what. Kenny Perry is another one of my very close friends on tour. And he was the first player to ever request that I walk with him at a tournament. He requested a month in advance for me to walk with him at the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. And from that week on, we've just been very, very close friends. And obviously his friendship means a lot to me. But in September, I was fortunate enough to be honored with the Expanding Horizons Award with the United Cerebral Palsy in Washington, D.C. And as part of that, as part of the gala that night, they did a silent auction. So I'd asked Kenny if he would donate some items to the silent auction. And I asked him in June, and he said, yeah, sure. So in July, we were at a tournament, and he said he drove up to the tournament in Illinois, and he said, when do you want to come pick up your stuff? I have them in my truck. I said, I'll come anytime. And so I went to his truck, and he pulled out a dozen golf balls. Every one of the golf balls were signed. Pulled out 5 golf gloves. Every glove was signed. Pulled out 3 hats. Every hat was signed. Pulled out a driver that he used, and he signed it. Then the last thing he pulled out was a golf bag. It happened to be the golf bag that he won the Memorial Tournament in the Buick Open with last year. He signed it for charity. I kind of wanted that for myself, but I did give it to charity. So, but that's just another story of how giving and how genuine these players are on the tour. Really, the only difference between you and I and them is that they play golf for a living, and they're very good at it. I'm fortunate to be really good friends, like I said, with a lot of players. Robert Gomez is another one of them. Robert invited me to play in his charity event in last March in 2008, which was a lot of fun, and he played in another charity event with me in August. And actually, I believe in November, when he has his charity event for this year, the United Cerebral Palsy of Central Florida will be a recipient, one of the charitable recipients. So that's kind of cool. Rich Beam is another good friend of mine, and actually I spent a lot of time with Rich last week. And it's kind of interesting because my mom and dad went to the British Open with me last year. But the RNA Golf Club only credentialed me for 2 passes. And I thought, well, we'll flip-flop. One day my mom will go, one day my dad will go, and because my mom didn't want to go every day. So, except for the fact that the 2 passes that the RNA credentialed me for, you had to provide a picture. So I was like, oh, that's going to be a problem. And I was talking to Rich a week before. We were having dinner, and he said, I said, I'm just going to buy my mom a ticket because, I know that the British Open doesn't sell out. And he goes, don't do that. I'll give you a player credential. And so he gave me a ticket for my mom for the entire week. I didn't ask. He just offered, and that's just another example of what the players do. But as I said, I'm very fortunate to have some of the best friends in the world from last year, and some friendships that I will definitely cherish for the rest of my life. These are also players that I'm comfortable enough to joke around with. So Robert Gomez and myself, we joke around a lot, and so do Rich Beam and I. We kid around a lot, and if people don't know us, you think we were being mean to each other, but we actually joke around and have some good laughs. One of the funniest stories in this book is at the World Golf Championships last year, Accenture Match Play Championship. I did follow Aaron Baddeley, and and in the third round, he played Tiger Woods. It was the best round of golf I saw all year long. Tiger had 11 birdies. Aaron had 10 birdies. Tiger won in 20 holes. It just so happened that I walked with, I stayed in the same hotel with Tiger's caddy, Stevie. So I saw him in the hotel lobby a couple times, and obviously saw him on the golf course. So after the round was over, Tiger's caddy, Stevie, came up to me and he goes, you brought us good luck this week. You going to be around the rest of the week? And I was like, yeah, I'll be around. He goes, you should follow us. I was like, okay. Well, I didn't have the heart to tell him I was rooting for Aaron Baddeley. Oops. I did have Inside the Ropes access to every event last year, but I tried not to use it as much as possible because I didn't want to be a distraction to the players, because I realized that Inside the Ropes is their job, and so I really tried to stay out of the way. But that was one round last year that I had to be inside the ropes 95% of the time, because if not, I wouldn't be able to see anything. There are pictures in this book, so for those of you who have a hard time reading, there are pictures. There's a picture with me and each one of the players that I walked with last year in the book, and also there's a picture. There's a couple pictures with my parents and I, and one of the cool pictures I have in the book. I'm sorry, as I'm trying to flip through the pictures here, is on the last page. In the middle here, you'll see a picture of my shoes. You're probably wondering why is there a picture of my shoes in the book? It's because I wanted to show all the shoes I wear on the course have the American flag on them, on both shoes. So I'm really proud of that. And you'll also see there's a picture in there that the PGA Tour presented me last year, a plaque with pictures of all the players that I walked with. Sorry, Randy, I stole your book. Guess you'll have to buy another one. But the PGA Tour presented me with a plaque last year that has pictures with all the players that I walked with and the tournament that I walked with them at, and all the pictures are signed by each player. So that was really special. I have a lot of great sponsors that helped me accomplish the journey last year. Southwest Airlines paid for all my air travel. They provided me 2 round-trip tickets for every event, because I always traveled with another person. Marriott Hotels gave us discount hotel rooms. Outback Steakhouse gave us some restaurant options. Ashworth Clothing Company provided all my apparel on the course. FootJoy provided all my shoes on the course. AccuSplit pedometers was a sponsor as well, and I wore a pedometer for the last half of the year on the course. Canon gave us a camera to use on the course. So every picture in the book actually came from my camera, and the camera is not really that big. But every picture in this book came from my camera. And this year I still have some great sponsors. Greg Norman Collection now provides my apparel on the course this year. FootJoy still provides my shoes on the course, and Southwest Airlines still pays for my air travel as much as I fly in and out of Southwest City as possible. But as I said, I have some of the greatest memories from last year, and there's this book, and I know that some people aren't golf fans, and obviously this book has got some great stories in there from golfers and stuff, but it's more than that for me, and it's a situation where I want people to see the underlying message of if you have a dream, go after it, and, through hard work, anything is possible. And don't let anybody tell you can't do something. Because if I took the advice of people, I wouldn't be where I am right now. You wouldn't be where you are right now because you wouldn't be coming to see me. But, I wouldn't take no for an answer. And I think I get that from my parents. I'm a very determined individual, or as some people in this room might say, I'm stubborn. But I'm okay with that. But as I said, I don't take no for an answer, and when I put my mind to something, I will go after it at any cost. And people ask me, did you ever second guess yourself for doing what you did in 2008? No, not at all. I lived out a dream last year, and all I had to do every morning is get up and walk some of the most beautiful golf courses in the world and meet some of the greatest people in the world. I had the best gig in the world last year. I'll be the first to admit it. But, not only is it stories with golfers in there, but it also talks about what I went through to accomplish the journey last year, what life was a little bit for me as a kid. But at the same time, I think the most important message is, I want to be able to motivate people and inspire people to set goals for themselves and be able to, accomplish any goals and challenges they set for themselves. And, if I can inspire one person by reading this book, or what I did last year, or what I'm doing this year, is pretty cool. And last year I was very fortunate. To be honest, I'll be completely honest. When I began the journey last year, I didn't do it to inspire people. I didn't do it to motivate people. I kind of did it for selfish reasons, as accomplishing a personal challenge of walking every hole, at the same time living out a personal dream. But at the same time, I quickly realized, probably the third week of the year, that I could inspire people to set goals for themselves and motivate people to accomplish the goals that they set for themselves. So if that's the card that I'm dealt, then that's the card I'm going to play to the best of my ability. I was also fortunate last year to be able to have a lot of media coverage. I didn't do this project for the media coverage. But in every city we went to, there was always a local newspaper. There was always a local television station that wanted to do stories on me. And my feeling is very simple. I'm never going to turn down a media request, albeit radio, television, newspaper, magazine, internet, whatever it is. I'm not going to turn it down, because I know I'm fortunate to be where I am. I know I'm very lucky. And if somebody's going to take the time to tell my story, then I'm going to give them the time to do what they want. And I'm very, very appreciative of the support and encouragement. And I really, truly appreciate that. And, ESPN did a big feature on me for their show E60. And the show first aired November 11th of last year. And they re-aired it many times. But at the same time, it's also circulating the internet right now. And over 2.7 million people have seen that video online. And I still, when I go out to tournaments this year, when I'm in the airport, and even out to dinner, people do come up to me and say, I saw your video, I really enjoy what you're doing. It makes me look at my life in a different way, and set goals for myself. So if I'm able to, inspire people in that way, then that's pretty cool. And as I said, if that's the card I'm dealt, then that's the card I'm going to play to the best of my ability. This year is a little different for me. I'm not going to every event, although there are some players out there that would like me to be at every event. But I am doing a lot of speaking engagements. I'm also doing a lot of charity work for the United Cerebral Palsy. And I am also I'll be at about 30 events this year on the PGA Tour to help promote my book, as we're trying to get my book into all the merchandise tents for the rest of the year. So I'm going to a lot of events to promote my book as well. So my schedule stays pretty busy, but I enjoy it. And, if I can inspire one person by going around the country to, talk about my book and talk about my experiences, and as I said, motivate people, then that's pretty cool. So I believe at this point I want to open it up for some questions and answers. So y'all don't be shy. Ask as many questions as you want, and we'll go from there. Yes?
What do you think of the golfer John Daly?
I'm a big fan of John Daly. He has been extremely nice to me, and actually, the Golf Channel, a little quick, outside story here. The Golf Channel was the first network to do a feature story on me last year, the third week of the year at the Bob Hope Classic. And when the producer of the feature told one of his friends about what we were doing, the producer came up to me and said, "They told me to give you this." And it was an autographed pair of golf shoes from John Daly. And I've actually met John on a number of occasions, and he's been extremely friendly. And I am a big fan of John Daly, and I just think that he gets kind of a raw deal from the media, because they talk about the bad things he does, but they don't always talk about the good things he does. Like, for instance, last year at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, he missed his Pro-Am tee time. But the reason why he missed his Pro-Am tee time is because the tournament office gave him his first round tee time instead of his Pro-Am tee time. Well, if you miss your Pro-Am spot, you get disqualified from the tournament. He got disqualified, and so everybody made a big deal out of it. But nobody reported that the Tuesday after the tournament, he took his Pro-Am partners, they went and had lunch and played around the golf together. So nobody knows that, but those are the things that John does, and he's very big into charity and does a lot of charitable functions, and I do think John's a good person. Yeah. Sorry, I do have long-winded answers, so I apologize. Yep, go ahead. Good question. I'm going to answer question number 2 first. I went through 5 pairs of golf shoes last year. Who is an inspiration to me? That's a very good question, and really one that I don't know that I can give a real a concrete answer for 1 or 2 people for that. I have a great support staff of my family and my friends who really look out for me and really take care of me. And I'm fortunate that, last year my parents went to a lot of events with me. My mom went to 9 events with me. My dad went to 21 events. Some of those events they went together, and I had a lot of friends that came out and traveled to the events with me. But I'm fortunate that the friends that I have, like I said, I have a very close-knit group of friends, and they're my friends because of what I can offer them as being a friend, and they're not my friend because they feel sorry for me because I have a disability or something like that. So I'm very fortunate to have some great friends, but as far as one person, 1 or 2 people to inspire me, I really can't give an answer. Really, the best answer I have is I have my family is a huge support staff for me, and my friends are great as well. So I kind of depend on my friends a lot for a lot of support and encouragement. Last year I played golf a total of 4 times, and they were all in charity events. So not as much last year, but I have played a number of times this year, and I've been fortunate enough to play golf with a lot of the players that I walked with last year, and it seems to be that each time I play, I do get a little better, and I just got a new set of golf clubs, so I'm pretty excited about that, and I've played pretty well with them. So, we're working on it now more this year, but not as much last year. Oh, that's a great question. It's interesting. The players are very much schedule-oriented, and the fact that they try to keep to the same schedule, and it's kind of funny. 2 years ago, Brant Snedeker shot 61 in the first round at a tournament in San Diego at Torrey Pines. And the day before the tournament, he actually ate a late lunch, so he didn't eat dinner. So the rest of the week, he would eat a late lunch and wouldn't eat dinner. And then he told me another story when he was on the nationwide tour. One time he won, they went and ate at Dairy Queen every night for dessert, so he went and ate Dairy Queen every night. And, so it's just kind of funny, players have superstitions of what colors they wear on certain days. Obviously, as people know, Tiger always wears red on Sundays. But there are other players that wear, different colors on, different days. One of the funniest superstitions, though, I got from a caddy, Mark Wilson's caddy. Well, first I'll say Jim Furyk's caddy, Fluff, always uses a purple towel. And Mark Wilson's caddy noticed that, and obviously Fluff has had some success with his players. And so Mark's caddy was like, well, if Fluff can have success with a purple towel, then I'm going to start using a purple towel. So Mark Wilson's caddy uses a purple towel now. So it's just kind of funny, a lot of superstitions, and they really do try to stay schedule oriented. So it's kind of funny. This year I'm going to do, I believe, 10 events for the UCP across the country. I'll speak to different groups. A lot of them have been going to charitable fundraiser functions, charity golf tournaments for them, fundraising dinners. It pretty much, I'll consider anything as far as, and if it fits in my schedule, then I'll do it, yeah. Well, last year I did 2 events for them. This year I'm going to do 10, so I guess that's increasing every year. And I'm sure that it probably will increase next year as well, and I'm definitely okay with that, and I'll do as much as I can. And as far as the speaking engagements as well, I'll do as many of those as possible. I've gone to schools to speak to students at schools. In fact, I did one a couple weeks ago in New Jersey for 1,000 kids. It was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and the teacher that helped put it together came up to me at the end of the day and said, we've never had our kids for that amount of time paying that close attention to one person, and so that was kind of cool. And then the next day, she sent me an email and was like, you're never going to believe how many thank you notes, thank you letters that the kids wrote to you for coming to their school. So, that's kind of cool. And, I'll speak to different organizations, at their meetings. And I spoke at a lawyer convention a couple weeks ago, and I'll speak to another organization in Reno, Nevada this week. So I'll do as many speaking engagements and appearances as possible, as long as it fits my schedule. Yes, ma'am?
Do you have plans for another book for future?
You are not the first person to ask that question. I have been asked a few times, do I have plans for a second book? And it's kind of interesting. Last year I walked with 44 players. There's pictures with me and every player in this book, but there's only 13 players that are featured in this book. The reason why there's only 13 players is because if I featured all 44 players in the book would be about 2,000 pages long. And that would just be really long and somewhat repetitive. But there have been questions on whether or not I'll do a second book, and more and more I get asked that question, the more and more I'm thinking about it. Yeah. So, but I'm not sure right now. Well, I don't do a lot of long-range planning. I'm not real good at that. But in 2009, my goal is to promote my book, and also, do as many charitable functions and speaking engagements as possible. Because I've been told now, and I have realized this myself, that I have the opportunity to be able to talk to kids around the country and different organizations to motivate them and to inspire them to achieve their goals and even set goals for themselves. So that's kind of my goal at this point, is to be able to do as many of these opportunities as possible, just to get my story out there. You know, I didn't write this book for the money, and I don't want people to buy this book just because it'll help my bank account. But I really want people to read the book and buy the book, because I think it's got great stories in there, and I think the underlying story of, you know, never giving up on your dream, and, you know, setting goals for yourself, and, you know, and I want it to be a book of inspiration and motivation. So if I can inspire one person by, you know, somebody reading this book, then that's pretty cool. Or, you know, if I can inspire and motivate somebody to achieve their goals that they've set, you know, maybe 5-6 years ago, that they've kind of put on the back burner for a while. If I can motivate them to, you know, achieve their goals by watching the story from ESPN or reading this book, then that's pretty cool too. It's kind of funny, and I'll tell 3 quick stories. But I was doing a book signing in Plano, Texas, about a month ago, and I flew through Atlanta. Sorry, Amy. One time I flew through Atlanta, I didn't call you. But I got on the plane, and I was in the last row on the plane, so much so that I couldn't even, you know, put my seat back. And this lady came up to me, and she goes, I have to ask you a question. And by this time, I knew what she was going to ask. So I kind of started to laugh. And she goes, you know what I'm going to ask you, don't you? I was like, yeah, but I'll let you ask before I answer. She said, are you that guy that walked everywhere? I was like, yes, that's me. She goes, I thought I recognized you when you walked past my row. So she was so funny. She goes, will you sign my plane ticket? So I did. But I thought that was kind of funny. And then a couple weeks ago, I flew to Hartford, Connecticut. And I was in the airport. I was going to baggage claim, and this girl was going to her gate, and she just ran over and she goes, oh my God, I just saw your video 2 weeks ago. So she started talking and telling me this story. So I gave her one of my cards. And, you know, therefore the next day she sent me an email. She goes, I was so excited to see you, I forgot to tell you what my name was. So that was kind of funny. And then I did a book signing at the U.S. Open this year, and I was walking to the main merchandise tent to do the signing, and my friend was with me, Greg, and so we're just talking, and this lady comes up to me and she goes, oh my God, I just saw your video yesterday. Amazing. She goes, I wanted to meet you so bad. She goes, I wanted to meet you more than any of the players here at this tournament, but I didn't know if you were going to be here, and, you know, this just made my day. And I'm not kidding you, this lady, she was in tears. And it wasn't like, you know, tears, you know, dribbling down your cheek. She was bawling. And, you know, so, you know, we took some pictures, and, you know, she did come and buy a book, and she was with her son, and you know, Craig, I saw Craig afterwards, and Craig was like, man, you handled that so well. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? I mean, you know, like I said, I truly appreciate the support and encouragement, and I love when people come up to me and say, you know, I saw your story, and you've inspired me, you've encouraged me to reach for my own goals, and, you know, that's pretty cool. And if I can do that by what I'm doing, then that's an awesome situation. And it was kind of funny. When I was trying, I know I said 3, but now I say it 4. I went on a cruise. I went on my first ever cruise in March with a bunch of my friends. And it was a 4-day, 3-night cruise to the Bahamas. So we had our 1 day in the Bahamas. And a friend of mine, we were walking down walking down the streets in the Bahamas. And this local bohemian person, he approached me and he said, "Are you the guy that walked every event on the PGA Tour?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And Paula, the girl that was with me, she goes, "Man, you can't go anywhere with somebody not knowing who you are." And so that was kind of cool that somebody outside of the United States knew who I was.
Thanks again for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
How about a round of applause?
Did you have a question too? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I can sit here all night, no problem. I'm in no rush.
I was just gonna say, I loved reading about you as a little kid growing up. And just real quick, what do you think was it that helped you grow up into a persistent, goal-driven person that you are?
Well, my parents are very determined people, as they didn't take no for an answer from the doctors when the doctors told them I'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life when I was 2 years old. So I think support from my parents and the determination from my mom and dad had a lot to do with it. And I think that's where I get a lot of my determination from too. Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
What are some of your biggest challenges that you faced on your road to achieving your goals?
Biggest challenges? Probably the days, at least for last year on the journey, the days where I had to walk 36 holes in one day, or days where there was weather delays. So we would be at a golf course from basically darkness to darkness. But yeah, the longer the day, and some days were more difficult than others. It depended on the course. It depended on the weather conditions. Obviously some courses are easier to walk than others. So it just depended on the course, depended on the weather. But definitely days that we had to walk more than 18 holes were more challenging than others. So don't be shy. Don't be shy.
How about life challenges?
I don't look at myself as having a disability, to be honest. I look at it more as I can do anything anybody else can do, maybe in some cases a little slower. I don't really know. I know that's a bad answer, but I really don't know because as I said, I don't look at having a disability, and I don't want people to treat me as somebody that has a disability. I don't want them to treat me any differently, and as I said, I have some great friends who treat me as a regular person. So as far as life challenges, I don't know what's more difficult as much as no matter what the situation is, I'm going to give it 110% effort every day and accomplish it no matter what, no matter how hard I have to work or what I have to do. I'm going to accomplish what I set out to do for sure. I know that's probably not a really good answer, but sorry. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's no question, but I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So who is your favorite player and why?
Oh, stop that. Yeah, exactly. I really can't. This is not to be a politically correct answer or anything like that, but there's not one player that's my favorite. Because as I said, every one of them told me anything I need, just let them know when it's done. But there are players that I am closer with than others. So if I were to have to give a top 6, it would be Rich Beam, Robert Gomez, Boo Weekley, Kenny Perry, Steve Marino, and Parker McLaughlin. would be the 6 players that I'm probably closest with.
If your book ever became a movie, who would you want to play you?
I love that question. That's who said that's an easy one? I don't know. I would not play myself. I would have to say Adam Sandler. That's right, Adam Sandler. Well, I have to have my personality, my sense of humor in there, so.
Just one more question.
Sure.
Where can we find out more information about you? Is there a website or a blog that we can follow?
I actually am not writing a blog this year for the PGA Tour, but I have these nice new cards here that were just made a couple weeks ago that has all my contact information. So I will give everyone here my card, and if they want to contact me, my email address, my phone number is on my card, and if there's anybody that wants me to do any speaking engagements or appearances, just contact me, and then we'll go from there. Well, I had 6 surgeries on my legs, or more. I know of at least 6. And also 5 surgeries on my eyes. I was born cross-eyed, as well as obviously the situation with my legs. And when I was born cross-eyed, they only can fix a little bit at a time. So I would have surgery, they'd fix a little bit, and then that would heal, and then we'd go back and do some more. So I've had numerous surgeries. So obviously each one of those presents a challenge to recover. And, in some cases, getting around high school and stuff like that. When I was in high school, I had the option to choose my high school because the school that I was supposed to fall into was not the quote-unquote handicap accessible school in the school system. And so, but I didn't really want to go to the handicap accessible school because it was our rival high school. And all my friends were going, we're going to fall right into Grimsley High School. And so the school system allowed me to choose my school that I wanted to go to. And there are four schools in the Guilford County Public School System in Greensboro, where I went to school, that I could choose from. So I went and visited every school, and at the end, I told my mom, I was like, "Hey, I want to go to Grimsley." I said, "That's where all my friends are going to go." And I said, "There's railings in all the stairs, so I'll have no problem getting up and down myself." And they were great. The teachers allowed me to leave class, 5 minutes early, just to make sure that I would be able to get to my next class on time. And it worked out great, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It was kind of interesting too. Last week I did a book signing in Greensboro, and in addition, I'll be back to Greensboro this year for the golf tournament. But I did it last Tuesday night, and I don't know how many of you watched Sports Center last week, but Sunday through Thursday they do a series every year called My Wish. And he was a good baseball player, loved baseball, and wanted to play in the major leagues really bad. And his wish was to spend time with his favorite Major League Baseball player, Jimmy Rollins, plays for the Philadelphia Phillies. And when he was in, because he had the leukemia, he had to be out of baseball for a year, couldn't play for a year. And then he came back and wanted to try out for the baseball team. So baseball tryouts were during the same time he was going through leukemia treatments. So he would go to baseball practice, and in between innings or in between times he's pitching, he would be throwing up behind the dugout. And then he made the team. But it was interesting. He just graduated high school this year. But the interesting part about it is he also went to Groomsley High School in Greensboro, and that piece aired the day before I went to Greensboro last week. So unfortunately, I had some travel issues going to Greensboro last week, so my flight was delayed. So I didn't get there with a lot of time to spare. So I was unable to. I called the producer from ESPN and got his dad's phone number, but because I was late getting there, I was unable to call him. But I thought that was very ironic that the person they profiled the night before I went was somebody that also went to my same high school. So that was kind of cool. Like I said, I had the best gig in the world. And it was awesome. I wouldn't change it for the world. People ask me, and Amy can vouch for this. What did I do to prepare for last year? Did I walk around the block a couple of times or walk on the track? Oh no, I sat on the couch, watched television, and had a few beverages. Yeah, I had some bottle of water. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.